I've been teaching various technology topics for over 15 years, and I'm proud to bring you this course for total training, Microsoft Office, getting up to speed, new features. Microsoft has improved the versatile Office once again. In this latest release, you'll find tools to increase productivity and consistency, to enhance professionalism, to make it easier to access, and even to share files. Throughout this course, I'll be showing you some of the common features that you'll find across the entire suite. In addition, we'll explore what each application has to offer, including Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, Access, OneNote, and the all-new web apps. Before we get started, I'd like to remind you that this course is not meant to be an overview of Office itself. To get the most out of this course, you should have already used Microsoft Office 2007. That's a prerequisite because we won't be going over the tremendous changes that happened with the 2007 release. It's okay if you don't have experience with Microsoft Office, but it might help if you watch our Office Shared Features course. This will give you in-depth discussion on the interface and the common features found in all of the applications. If you're curious about the backstage, how to use a web app, or what has changed in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and the other applications, then you're in the right place. In this course, we'll explore the new features that let us work the way we want, where we want, using the devices we want. I've loved exploring this new release of Office, and it's a privilege to help you become familiar with Office new features as well. As an instructor, I feel that providing you with accurate information is very important. Once you're familiar with an application, it will be easier to translate between what you may read or hear and what your screen actually shows. When we learn something new, anything that is even a little inconsistent can be confusing and make us feel lost. I certainly understand it, and I definitely don't want that to happen to you. However, in order to get this new features course ready, this course was actually written and recorded using the beta before the retail release of Office. We worked very hard to research and ensure that what we showed you in the course would be accurate in the full release of the software. We did a pretty good job, but there is one specific discrepancy. In this course, I'll be showing you part of the backstage view that is called Share. In the full release, the name of this option was changed to Save and Send. This is simply a small visual alteration that Microsoft made between recording this course and finalizing the software. There may, of course, be some other minor discrepancies. I just wanted to let you know that during the course, you might see something on your screen that's a little bit different than what you actually experience with your own software. More importantly, I want to assure you that the functionality and techniques that you're shown are going to be exactly the same. Now I hope you'll sit back, relax, and enjoy learning all of the new features in Office. The good news is that you've probably already survived the biggest challenge, the move from the older toolbar and menu interface to the new Fluent interface, including the ribbon that was introduced back in Office 2007. If you've decided to explore the new features in Office before you've experienced 2007, you might have a few, shall we say, gaps in your knowledge. Don't be alarmed. It's mostly just terminology and where things are, and you can still take this course and appreciate what Office has to offer. In Office, it's not such a drastic change because we're already familiar with the radical interface. Think of it like a new car model year. There are still changes and enhancements that you should know about. Some will be obvious, like a change to the exterior of the car's shape or maybe a dashboard control in a different place. Others will be more subtle, such as enhancements to performance or safety features. We want to begin by identifying what's new or improved in the Fluent interface. In order to do this, I've opened the file. It's in your Chapter 1 folder of your Project File folder that's probably on your desktop, and it's called Training Proposal. We won't be working too much with the contents of this document, but I want to be sure that all of our controls are active. To do that, we need to have a file that's open, and it also helps to have a file with some content. So this is the file that we'll have open and use as we progress through the lessons in this chapter. If you've used Office 2007, you'll notice that this is very familiar. The ribbon is at the top, the status bar is at the bottom. You might wonder why there was such a big change between prior versions of Office and the 2007 version when the Fluent interface was introduced. Well, to cut a long story short, it's because the toolbars and menus had simply outlived their usefulness, and a redesign was needed to accommodate the numerous features available in today's applications. We still have the Fluent interface, and you'll see that some things are very similar. I'll start kind of backwards from the way most people do. Instead of starting from the top left and working to the bottom right, I'll begin with the bottom right. You'll notice on the bottom right, we still have our zoom controls. We can drag the slider. We can click the plus and minus signs. And we can actually click the percentage to bring up a window that allows us to do presets, if you will. For example, I might want to look at the whole page. We still have our page views, and as you can see, we also get tool tips. On the left-hand side, you'll also see some basic information. What you see here might be slightly different from what I'm showing. I'm using a default installation of Office fresh from the box, and yours might be customized. My status bar is showing the number of pages, the current page I'm on, and how many words are in the document. It also has an indicator for spell check. In 2007, they gave us the ability to update or customize the status bar. By right-clicking, we can see all of the different things that we can show and which ones we want to turn on or off. For example, I like page numbers and I like to know the word count. Maybe I do marketing, where I have to write something that has at least 100 words. Or maybe I'm a student and I have to write a 500-word essay. One of the things I might want to turn off is the number of authors editing. And this is actually a new feature in Office that has to do with co-authoring. We'll talk about that in a later chapter. If I didn't need something in particular, like language, I would just turn it off. You'll also see that when something is enabled, like signatures, on the right-hand side, it might also tell you that even though signatures will show up in the status bar, currently, for this document, they're turned off. So there could be two things that you need to take a look at, especially if you're trying to troubleshoot why some information is not showing in the taskbar. I'm going to make that one change. I'm going to click back on my document to get rid of the menu and just remind you that the status bar in general is exactly the same as it was in Office 2007, except it does have some added features that are new in Office. As I've mentioned, the most noticeable change in 2007 was the replacement of menus and toolbars with the ribbon. Well, the ribbon is back and almost exactly the same. Let's go over a little bit of terminology. Even if you've used 2007, if you didn't have good training, you might not know the terminology. And the terminology can be important. So, on the ribbon, let's start by talking about tabs. The Home tab, the Insert tab, the Page Layout tab, and so on. If I go to the Home tab, I can then use groups. So the Home tab has the Clipboard group, the Font group, the Paragraph group, and so on. And then within a group, you have an option. So you might hear somebody tell you something like, go to the Home tab in the Clipboard group and select the Format Painter option. So far so good? I don't care too much if you know all the terminology, but you will hear it and read it, so it's good to be at least familiar with it. As you can see, when we pause over things, we still get tool tips that are expanded from what we saw in the past. It tells us the same. In this case, Format Painter, as well as giving us the keyboard shortcut Control-Shift-C. If I move over that again to bring it back up, we also see that it actually gives us an explanation. Copy formatting from one place and apply it to another. This can be really helpful if you're not familiar with all of the tools. In addition to tabs and groups and options, there are a few other things we need to know about the ribbon. The first is a dialog box launcher. If you look at the font group, you'll see that the most commonly used font features are here, but not all of them. We had to change from menus and toolbars to the ribbon because there simply wasn't enough room to show all of the options that we had anymore. Well, the same is true in the ribbon. If I want to see something that's not the basics, like bolding something or changing the font or the size, I can go to the lower right corner and pause over the little arrow called the Dialog Box Launcher. When I click on it, it brings up a dialog box. For most of you, this will be familiar. These are the same boxes you saw when you went to Format Font in the older applications, but here we can access things that we don't necessarily see on a ribbon, like applying a double strike through or an emboss effect. So if you're looking for something and you can't find it, here's some troubleshooting. First, make sure you're on the right tab. Then make sure you're looking for the right group and option. And if you still don't see it, look for a dialog box launcher that might show you additional options. None of that is actually new with Office, it's just a review from 2007. But something that is new is over on the right-hand side. You'll see two buttons. This one actually lets me shrink down the ribbon or collapse the ribbon. So if I don't like taking up that space, with one click I can simply get rid of it and bring it back. There's also the Help button. This isn't new, but it still surprises me when I hear people say that they can't find help. I guess they're used to that big box that said, "Ask a question." To them it was really obvious. Now, even though this is a question mark, people overlook it for some reason. So, don't panic, you still have help in these versions of Office. It's just a small, circular button with a question mark on it near the right-hand side of the ribbon in the screen. The other thing that's similar at the top of the screen is the Quick Access bar, which gives you access to things you need quickly. If I'm moving around between different tabs, for example, if I'm on the References tab, I don't have access to some of the things that I want to do most often, which are on the Home tab. So instead, I can place those things up here, and these always appear no matter which tab I'm currently on. The default is for it to have a save, an undo, and a redo, but you can customize this. You can click on the drop-down and quickly add things, like an ability to do a quick print or a print preview. I'll go ahead and click on Quick Print, and now you can see that I always have the option to print right from here. Many people complain, though, that if you add too many buttons in 2007, this bar got so big that it began to interfere with the file name. As the bar grew across, it would actually cover over the name of the file. The problem, of course, was that what they were trying to do was to reconstruct their custom toolbars by simply using the Quick Access bar. And that's not exactly what it was intended to do. You did have the option of putting this bar below the ribbon, and that solved the problem. It could then extend across the screen. But here's the good news. In Office, they've added something that was highly requested after the release of 2007, and that highly requested feature is the topic for Lesson 2.